total compensation package is 1.6 million. The wages are 1.1 million, and benefits are 562,000.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that anybody with a satisfactory review will move up a step.
Yep.
The issue is whether or not we update our schedule with some kind of COLA.
In an ideal world, we would always like to give people as much more money as we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that we want to table this discussion. First of all, we've tossed it out there, so it will ferment the airwaves, I'm sure, which is healthy. I have no problem with that. The other thing is we can research our computers and see what
the changes in
what
the
the
cost of
COLA
living.
is. I do know inflation has been under 1%, so.
But we have a responsibility both to the employee and to the taxpayer.
Right.
That what we do is fair and not to the detriment of the employee nor to the detriment of the people who pay the bills, which is the taxpayer. So while sitting here, I can say, gee, I think a 2% cost of living, that seems reasonable. I have no idea if there's any basis in monitored data to support that.
Right.
And if we implement a cost of living adjustment that is an arbitrary number, then it really isn't a cost of living adjustment.
Right.
I mean, it's a, well, we think we need to.
We go back to arbitrary numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
And invite the public to contact us if they have a question.
So basically, the reason we're going to talk about this today is an email from Clay regarding COLA, some cost of living updates to our schedule. There was no cost of living for 2016. So we have to decide whether or not we want to update the schedule that we have with a 2%. A COLA in addition to the 2% salary increase. And it's important that we decide that because we want budgets to be submitted to us shortly
Including
and have that information included. So, your thoughts?
So a question.
Mhm.
In the past, cost of living has been established by what process has the board gone through in the past to?
That's the cost of living, I think it is from the Social Security.
From the federal?
Yeah, the
COLA.
federal
Okay.
COLA. Up until we did this compensation study, it really raises and COLAs were hit or miss. Sometimes
Mhm.
they got raises, sometimes they didn't, sometimes there was a cost of living. So it was a good thing that this was done. So then now we have some kind of basis for any decisions that we make. And we want to
I didn't
kind of
read-
adhere to this so that we are consistent
Right.
for the employees to know what they're going to be receiving
Mhm.
as far as compensation increases.
So for 2016, there was no COLA
No.
increase, right? And that was based on no
No cost of living from the federal
federal
government.
government. Okay, so
2015, 2016 was a unique situation. The compensation study was done,
Right.
and it took 2 years to
Implement.
implement it. It was done over 2 years. I have the folder at home, and like she says, it was intermittent as far as the pay raises called cost of living. Sometimes it was 1%, sometimes it was 2%. There was 1 year there were no raises, and I can get that information to you. But this,
No, we're talking specifically at this point
At this
about,
point.
Yes.
about a general cost of living adjustment.
Mhm, mhm.
Whether there be no COLA or some percentage COLA.
In addition.
Separate from the pay table,
merit increase.
right?
In theory, what you would do is you would revise the numbers here to include, when you give a COLA, to include
Okay.
that so it goes forward.
All right.
Now, for the last 2 years, as Lloyd said, we did implement substantial raises for our people. Initially, we went with option 2 for 2015 to just get people
Mhm.
started. We did additional raises for the fire department because they were so far behind. And then we went to option 1 for 2016.
Mhm.
So,
Right here
which
is-
was the more costly.
This was option 2, and then the first year, look how some people were in arrears.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
23%, 3%, 31%, 18. Most of them were 1 and 2% in arrears. There were 2 that were 0, but that was the percentage, and it's a little bit misleading. For example, the one that was 20% were the per diem recycling
Mhm.
people that only work 15 hours a
Right.
week. So that's not the dollars and cents, but that's the percentage.
But the intent of this 2-year step was to put everybody at the right
Competitive market.
place,
Mhm.
Yes.
uh,
Yep.
as determined through the compensation study that was done. So
Right.
everybody now is on this schedule at a pay grade and step that's commensurate with their experience and the marketplace.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And as they go forward, there is still opportunity for merit increases within the table, correct? And so what we're talking about today is separate from this schedule,
Right.
but related in that if there is a cost of living adjustment, it would affect the rates on the table.
Exactly.
So for 2016, there was no cost of living adjustment, and that was based on no federal
Mhm.
cost of living adjustment. So I guess my next question is there a federal cost of living adjustment for 2017?
Don't know that until
Okay.
October-ish.
All right.
It's so far into the year.
Right?
Um,
So is there a proxy that we can use in the process to get an idea for if there might be, I mean, I understand that that the federal cost of living adjustment is part of the budget process in the federal government. It's not a straightforward, here's a number and this is what's gonna happen.
mhm.
And certainly a cost of living adjustment should take into account as closely as possible the effect on consumers, employees of actual increases in the cost of things that the basket of
Right.
goods that they buy. So do we know if there is, for instance, an inflation number in the state of New Hampshire this year? Anecdotally, I know that today we pay substantially less than we did not too long ago for gasoline
Yeah.
and heating oil. And when we look at how we divide up the money we spend in our households, when the cost of fuel goes down, it helps us out,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Other things may be going up. I don't have that much of a feel for that.
Mm.
But if we're gonna specify an adjustment, it seems to me that it needs to be tied to some objective criteria, and not just, yeah, I'm paying more for eggs today, for instance, so we want to give everybody a little more money.
Mm.
I mean, in an ideal world, we would always like to give people as much more money as we can.
Yeah. Yep.
But we have a responsibility both to the employee and to the taxpayer.
Right.
That what we do is fair, and not to the detriment of the employee, nor to the detriment of the people who pay the bills, which is the taxpayer. So while sitting here, I can say, gee, I think a 2% cost of living, that seems reasonable. I have no idea if there's any basis in monitored data to support that.
Right.
And if we implement a cost of living adjustment that is an arbitrary number, then it really isn't a cost of living adjustment.
Right.
I mean, it's we think we need to.
We go back to arbitrary numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, would it make sense to,
Does the state, there must be some state agency that tracks
Yes.
market basket of goods, cost changes.
I don't, yeah, I'm sure that there is a
Yes, there is.
department that,
There's 4 of them.
Hmm?
There's 4 different departments that do it.
So how do we identify a cost of living adjustment or adopt a cost of living adjustment if we don't have that kind of data to work with? We just pick a number out of the air?
no.
Cost of living is separate from a merit increase.
That's right,
correct?
right.
Well, let me take a step back, I don't want to confuse things. If everyone next year were to get a merit increase of 2%, that's one step. That's $22,216.20 added to that line. Understand what I'm saying?
That represents 2% across the board.
Yes.
One step for everybody.
Please don't forget that there's a little percentage that the police, fire, and government employees all get to pay state retirement. There's fractions of pennies
Yeah,
there.
there's Social Security.
There's Social
like,
Security.
Retirement.
Retirement. But if we're talking wages and salaries, we're talking basically $22,000 and change increase in the budget. Our total compensation package is 1.6 million. The wages are 1.1 million and benefits are 562,000. And they're sprinkled all throughout the budget in different places. And a pay raise affects more than one category. Can I continue? I have a couple of other comments. This is the proposed pay structure that's now 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Clay tried to hire some per diem people and start them out at pay grade 1, and he had a number of people say, "Oh, I'm not coming to work for $11.48 before taxes." He couldn't find anybody, could he? The other thing is, you know, there's already some states, and there's rumor that the federal government, if a certain person gets elected, the starting wage is gonna go up to $15. Isn't it amazing? On pay grade 1, you go all the way up to the 15th step before you get what one presidential candidate is recommending. The other thing is that when this pay structure was put into place, step 4 is what they call the proficiency rate. When we hire someone and they have some skills and they've done the job and it's basically a lateral step, guess what? We disregard the first 3 steps by recommendation. So I think we ought to at least folks, I'll toss this out, is delete number 1, make 2 number 1, and add 2% over here. Now, that's different than cost of living. I've reviewed again the pay and classification study, and I will repeat again, and I was pleased with past budget committees, boards of selectmen, and the town voters. Our number 1 resource is our people. And I'm proud that we were part of this study. We need to invest in our people. Not blank check, but they are the ones that do the work. They're the ones that make this a wonderful community. Every single one of them is marketable and could leave tomorrow for more money. So it sounds like, I'm not saying I want to give away the farm, but
So what exactly are you proposing? To eliminate the first step,
yes,
or make number 2 1?
yes.
And add something on to
Yes.
the end?
I
Okay, that makes sense.
I recommend that we continue with merit increases. I like that philosophy. It seems to work like this. The other thing is, Clay Gallagher had me stop by. He has a proposal that, and several options. One of it or both of them have to do with how we can incentivize recycling. And he's borrowed from, I think, 3 or 4 other towns, that $22,000 should come out of his income. Thank you.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that anybody with a satisfactory review will move up a step.
Yep.
The issue is whether or not we update our schedule with some kind of COLA. Since there was no COLA in 2016, and we won't know if there will be one for 2017 until much later this year, would it be too terrible that we update the schedule with whatever COLA may be proposed or suggested for the following year's budget process? Update this actually on a going forward basis, where they won't get it in their pay in 2017, but it's built into the schedule going forward. I don't know. Other than waiting until October or November to hear what it would be.
I think that all of the taxpayers have made it clear they expect us to, number 1, be judicious on the budget. But I mean, in the last year, Carolyn, how many compliments have we got from citizens? Every single department, almost. I can't think of an employee we haven't got a letter on that they extended themselves. I'm kind of in a unique position, but
Yep.
I do think that we want to table this discussion. First of all, we've tossed it out there, so we'll ferment the airwaves, I'm sure, which is healthy. I have no problem with that. The other thing is we can research our computers and see what
the changes
what
in
the
the cost of
COLA
living
is. I do know inflation has been under 1%, so.
want to table
I
it?
don't feel that we have enough information to establish a COLA at this point. Now, you know, we talked about adjusting this structure, and I don't know, for instance, what, if any, suggestion that Thornton and Associates has for revisiting this over time. I mean, yes, they put this together 2 years ago for us. Obviously, that's a snapshot in time.
Mhm.
What I
That
did,
point.
what I did is I compared New Durham and New London, that we got copies of.
Right.
We're a participant there,
Mhm.
and we're in the ballpark.
Mhm.
We're
Right.
reasonable. Yes, for example, our Clay, for example, is a department head where in those two towns, it's an employee under the town manager. So
Mhm.
there's some unique issues there. Those other two towns have full-time people who are the road agents. Ours is elected, so there are some differences that are unique to Tuftonboro. But, you know, we're a few pennies behind here, but nothing that couldn't be solved by what we just talked about.
So
I move we table discussion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And invite the public to contact us if they have a question.
I would like to discuss it again on Monday.
Next Monday?
Mhm.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're into September, middle of September.
Yes.
Before we discuss it.
Mhm.
And it's only fair that the department heads not have to redo their budgets 4 times.
You're right.